Hello, everybody. Welcome back to this Tropical Update number 16. Today is Sunday, the 4th of July, and this is the mid-afternoon update. We're going to have another one early this evening after the 5 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. We see the latest on Elsa. Finally, tropical storm warnings in effect for much of the Keys. Tropical storm watches also in effect for Southwest Florida. Expect those watches and warnings to continue to move northward as we continue throughout the next several days. And Elsa makes its approach towards the United States. Elsa is currently located between Jamaica and Cuba, and we see it right now over Jamaica and just north of Jamaica. Heavy convection around Jamaica, but again, that center is in between Jamaica and Cuba. And it's really not looking too great. However, winds are still at 60 miles an hour, pretty strong. As I mentioned, tropical storm warnings for most of Cuba, Jamaica, the Florida Keys from Dry Tortugas to Craig Key. So all tropical storm watches for the Cayman Islands, one of the provinces in Cuba, portions of Southwest Florida, including the Florida Keys from Craig Key to Ocean Reef, in the Florida Bay, and Flamingo, Florida to Bonita Beach. Hurricane watch remains in effect for the eastern part of Cuba, about the eastern half or so of the country. However, again, Elsa is not expected to re-attain hurricane strength anytime soon. Its latest latest radar presentation looks pretty good. I mean, it doesn't look too great at the very beginning of its life here. Apparently, this is only going to play once, but it does look like somewhat of an eye wall type thing is forming on that Cuban radar. So again, let's see if we can play that one more time. You see it. It looks fairly decent. Hurricane Hunter went in this morning. We're going to have another Hurricane Hunter departing in a couple hours or so. Probably won't be in the storm by the time I have my next update out, but alas, it's a little difficult to fly a plane over a storm when we also have two nations that the Air Force has to fly over. Cuba doesn't like that too much, although they have started to accept that more. The NOAA Hurricane Hunters are fine to fly over Cuba. The Air Force is more of a gray area. But generally, in the past, it's been at least somewhat allowed. So that's something, just to keep in mind, why we can't fly planes over Cuba. So we got to fly around Cuba if it's an Air Force plane. And then also, if you fly a plane over land, it messes with the reading that we get for the wind speeds of the storm. So that's also something we have to avoid. Most likely time of arrival for winds entering Southwest Florida and the Keys, probably Monday night, Tuesday morning for the southern, quarter of Florida. Tuesday evening for the southern half of Florida. By the time we get to Wednesday around noon, all of Florida and even parts of Georgia may start to experience tropical storm force winds. So again, with Wednesday morning being that time frame that most of Florida would get tropical storm force winds, that does in fact mean that by the time we get to Monday morning, that is tomorrow morning, we could see tropical storm watches as far north as Georgia, although we'll probably see them for the Big Bend later tonight or tomorrow morning at the very latest. Rainfall is also a big concern with this. I didn't update the rainfall, though I don't think that its forecast has changed a whole lot. Perhaps maybe isolated to 8 inches or more in some parts of Florida, especially to the east of where that center is going to be. As I've been mentioning, the storm runs along the coast, which means that the rain on the east side, where it's going to have lots of the convection and rainfall, is going to be falling along the coastline. So some significant rainfall could be seen for much of the coast over the next three days. There is a slight risk of flash flooding for much of the Florida Peninsula. So that's something we're going to keep an eye on. We'll have updated information on rainfall as well as tornadoes at the 5 p.m. or so update that I'm going to release here. NWS Miami is calling for a potential for a few isolated tornadoes. So it's a little too far out to have the SPC forecast. We'll have the Storm Prediction Center tornado forecast as early as tomorrow, or at least get an idea of it tomorrow. But then after that, we'll start to get actual zoned off lines of marginal and slight risks for tornadoes, if that does be a thing. Storm surge is, of course, a concern. Again, I didn't update these numbers a whole lot either from the previous update. Again, more information will be coming here in a few hours once I get that 5 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center. 1 to 3 feet from Bonita Beach down to Flamingo, Florida. The Keys and the Florida Bay are looking at 1 to 2 feet of storm surge right now. More storm surge for Hispaniola and parts of Cuba. If we take a look at the models, it's starting. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a Florida landfalling storm around 72 hours from now. The storm's going to be still a storm. It's not going to be a hurricane, probably not going to be a depression quite yet. However, lots of things can still change. And then again, it's going to ride that U.S. coastline, bring lots of wind and rain to much of the U.S. coast as well. The ensembles these two ensembles at least are on the extreme edges of the cone. So I don't want to ignore them, but I do want to show you guys that is the case. However, it is worth noting that the one on the right-hand side doesn't have Elsa nearly as far south as it should have been in almost all but 2 or 3 of the ensemble members that it has. The European model, much the same, is keeping Elsa too far to the north on many of its ensemble members, and hardly any of them have Elsa continuing its life very long. So that's also worth noting with this storm. The latest HWRF model, again, brings Elsa south of Cuba through Cuba, and it keeps it as a tropical storm for most of its life, keeps it off the coast, doesn't strengthen it much. That's due to a little bit of wind shear, perhaps as high as 15 or 20 knots. And wind shear is good for tornadoes. It's bad for hurricanes if you want them to strengthen. And this storm fails to continue to develop. It's going to be a big rainmaker nonetheless, though. So even if it does become a weak tropical storm or even a tropical depression by the time it makes landfall, rain's going to be a big concern for much of western Florida. Like I've been alluding to and said multiple times, we'll have another update out later this afternoon and evening on Tropical Storm Elsa. We'll have continued coverage on Monday morning, Monday evening, and same deal on Tuesday. Again, I will be tracking this storm very, very closely as I am, of course, in that tropical storm watch area. First time I've been in a tropical storm watch, I believe, since 2008, also in Florida with Tropical Storm Faye. Anyways, guys, that's all for now. Stay safe, stay healthy. Chris 694, Catholic Video.